My name is Nancy Graham, and I want to talk to you for a few minutes about impeachment. Impeachment was written into the U.S. Constitution because our founders were determined never again to allow this country to be subject to a dictator or a supreme ruler. Indeed, impeachment is mentioned 6 times in the Constitution. Clearly, the founders strongly believed in it. Constitutional lawyer Bruce Fein, who declares himself a conservative but believes we must impeach the current occupants, states it this way: "The Founding Fathers expected an executive who would try to overreach his powers, and they built in a way to prevent it." End quote. The crimes of both President Bush and Vice President Cheney have been amply demonstrated. They both lied repeatedly about Iraqi ties to al-Qaeda. Although Mr. Bush has since stated that it's now known there were no such ties, he states it in such a way that many who really want to believe this can still continue doing so. Mr. Cheney still continues this lie in interviews. Their claims about Iraqi weapons of mass destruction have been shown in every detail to have been not mistakes, but outright lies. Their threats and lies about Iran are well documented in many sources. They also lied about illegal spying on their own citizens, and Mr. Bush later confessed to it. A federal court has ruled that such spying is clearly a felony. The Supreme Court has ruled that the President and Vice President's system of detentions to be totally unconstitutional. Torture, openly advocated by both Mr. Bush and Mr. Cheney and their staffs, is documented by victims, witnesses, and public photographs. Several different treaties, which have been made part of U.S. law regarding the prohibition of torture, when ratified by the U.S., they do become a constitutional part of our law, and they are clearly against any kind of torture. Mr. Bush has reversed a number of laws with signing statements. A signing statement is a letter that states that the President alone can decide how binding this particular law is on him. However, in the Constitution, the power to interpret laws is entrusted to the courts alone. These signing statements are posted on the White House website, and a Government Accountability Office report has found that in 30% of these laws that have Mr. Bush's signing statements attached, Bush has in fact proceeded to break those laws. Impeachment must begin in the House of Representatives, and their only duty of the representatives is to find whether there is substantial evidence of crimes. This evidence then should be brought before the appropriate tribunal, which in the case of impeachment is the Senate of the United States. For these and many other offenses that I have already cited, no investigation should be needed because they are all totally evident and clear on videotapes and written documents. Rather than taking 3 months, the impeachments of Mr. Cheney and Mr. Bush could be completed in 1 day. I have written to several representatives urging them to sign on to Dennis Kucinich's bill in the House, which requests the impeachment process begin against Dick Cheney. One of those representatives answered back to me that she believed it would be a waste of time to be seeking revenge and retribution, her words. "No," I wrote back, "that's not what this is about. This is a matter of you, my representative, obeying your oath to protect and defend the Constitution." I believe she must have received many such letters, for she did indeed sign on a couple of weeks later. Thank you, Tammy Baldwin of Wisconsin. Another representative I wrote to replied, quote, "I am working hard to change the direction of the country and to correct mistakes of the Bush administration." Ms. Giffords, it is an old country maxim that when you're in a deep hole, the first thing you do is quit digging. If Mr. Bush and Mr. Cheney continue to make these mistakes, as you call them, you'll never have time to get them all corrected. You do the correcting after you have stopped them from continuing more. Some politicians give a variety of reasons that they don't want to be impeaching. One, they say, it takes too much time. However, if we could just convince a majority of the representatives in the House of Representatives that this is something that we must do, many others will join in. There is huge public pressure. Mr. Nixon took 3 months to impeach. Bill Clinton took 1 month. And as I said before, there is so much documentation on many of the crimes of both Bush and Cheney, it could be done in 1 day. We have 10 months left of the reign of these two men. Some politicians will say there are more important issues to deal with. Well, of course, there are always important issues, but stop here a minute. What is more important than saving our republic? Finally, some politicians will say that we might not appeal to the voters as much in the next election if we work on impeachment. Well, excuse me, but you're playing politics with the very future of our republic. Every one of these politicians, representatives, senators alike, must become convinced that they'll lose their current job in the next election unless they screw up their courage and do what is right, not what is politically expedient. Everyone listening to this opinion should call your representative. You can call their local office in your area. Their staff will get the message to them. Or you can call 1-800-828-0498 and ask for your representative's office. There are over 100 municipalities, towns, villages, city councils, county boards that have already voted in non-binding resolutions to support impeachment. Now, you won't read about any of that in your local newspapers because the papers don't want to see the boat get rocked. But how else can we get rid of the people who would apparently want to see our country become a theocracy or an authoritarian government? We must impeach, and we must do it now. Some of the resources I used for this were a book by John Nichols, The Genius of Impeachment, very readable and very interesting. And one of the best television pieces of a show that I've seen is Bill Moyer's Journal. He does this every Friday night on public television, and the July 13th, 2007 show is a 50-minute piece of education. He interviews both John Nichols and Bruce Fine, the constitutional lawyer I quoted earlier. It's Mr. Moyer's documents all of his shows. He has the archives for all of them. And I just checked last night to make sure the July 13th show is on there along with all the rest. You can sit there and watch it on your computer or just listen to it if you prefer. I hope you have a chance to do so. My name is Nancy Graham. This has been my commentary. Thank you very much.